mine is that I like where the market is now. You know, the market over the last 2 years were just crazy. It was very easy to be a listing agent. It was, you know, a buyer's agency was very tough. I mean, going in with these multiple offers. Just looked at the other day, the statistics on the average offer, you know, going in nationwide went from 4.2 down to 2.8. I mean, we're still getting 2.8. Average days on market, you know, 14 days on market. I mean, when we're looking at these statistics, everything that we saw in the indicators that we are not in a recession in real estate. You know, the market's improving. We're seeing appreciation in the market, still seeing about 6% appreciation. So across the board, things look really strong. And, you know, what we're looking at these mastermind groups is how can we react to these strengths in the market? What could we be doing on a daily basis that are going to impact you and your business? And that's why we have Aaron on the call. Aaron's been, you know, been in every part of the real estate, from the coaching side, the ownership side, the production side. Like, Aaron's been there. So, you know, I look at Aaron as a coach myself, and, you know, what he can do and help guiding Rebel, but also our goal through these mastermind groups are really to guide you as agents to become better agents, become stronger agents. And, you know, so really just tying in today, we're going to be going through a lot in today's call that, you know, really going to be hitting on things that you guys should be doing as agents and should have been doing since the last call that we were in. So, and Aaron, I don't know if you want to touch on anything on the market real quick before we, you know, get into some of these slides.
Actually, I will after you've done the slides, Ryan, because I feel like, you know, having reviewed that, that's all relevant to sort of talk about some of the situations after that, because I think what you're going to start with is very, very poignant for where we are at the moment. So I'll jump in once you've done your slides, because I think that's going to be pretty spot on the money.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's get started. So, I mean, the one thing that I see as an agent, like, just staying positive in today's market. You know, like, you turn on the TV, you turn on, you know, the Instagram, you're going to see things that people are trying to sell. What sells in the market today? You know, I mean, you don't turn on the news, turn on the local news. Are they talking about, you know, things that are positive in the market, or does negativity sell? Negativity sells. So when you're looking at the market, the one thing you have to look at is you have to look at how you're going to stay positive in the shift that we're taking on. And that's part of the mastermind group. You know, when I'm looking at market statistics right now, and I've been doing this for 20 years, I've never been in a market that interest rates, like in 2019, we're kind of more in that 2019 market where houses are getting 2 to 3 offers. I mean, you're on the market for 14 days. I've been in markets where housing average days on market are 60, 70 days on the market. I mean, we had, you know, back in the post 2008, I mean, you'd be praying for somebody just to do a showing on your house, let alone bring an offer in. So, you know, knowing that the different tides in the market, we're still in a really strong market. And it's really the number one point is staying positive, is stay out of the hype. You know, stay out of what other people are saying, the doom and gloom about the market, what other realtors that are not producing realtors are talking about, how much they're struggling in the market because they're feeding into the hype. And that's the thing, is you got to stay positive. You have to have an outlook in today's market that you are going to be growing your business in this market. I've always looked at that in any market. Back in 2008, where we are today, I'm always looking at how can I grow my market? How can I be excited about today's market? So focus on the positive things that are in the market. Positive things. Offers are still coming in. Homes on the market, days on market is still relatively low. Interest rates historically are still low. I mean, they're not where they were, you know, 2 years ago over the last 2 years, but historically, when I first got into the business, 7-8%. So you really, and the other thing you have to really do is work on your mental focus. This is a good time as the market's shifting, you have more time in your daily schedules, is that you have to stay mentally focused. And being mentally focused is a lot of things that we talk about in these masterminds, is that you have to have structure to your business. Structure and clarity to your business will get you more focused. And, you know, one of the things that I love to do every day is I get up and get my day going early, do some exercise, do some, you know, whether it's, you know, physical exercise, mental exercise, where you're doing some meditation or reading, keeping that, building your day so that you are going to be strong mentally for that day. So you got to build that mental focus. That's number one. And growing that mental focus, we start as creating, like, your days. What are you going to do each day? What are the goals that you're going to achieve every day in your schedule? So being mentally focused is really strong in today's world, especially when we're in a changing market. Now, the next thing I want to go into is I read this article about 7 warning signs that your business won't survive the market shift. And this kind of ties into every like coaching, program out there that you pay through. All these coaches nationwide, they all talk about similar things you should be doing in your business. But why do a lot of people not do it? And then why is the market shift? People aren't accelerating their business because if you're looking at market, we look at new home constructions down, 15 to 20% right now. Well, if new home construction was driving the market is down 15 to 20%, what are ways that we can pick up 15 or 20% of our market to grow our business? And we look at these common signs is if your database isn't growing, and I look at the database as like, that is your odometer. That's your speed, your speed to your business. If you're not growing that, you're not moving at a very good pace. So if you're not growing your database, you're not putting new clients in, you're not growing your sphere, you're not impacting your past clients, you're not reaching out to them, you're not picking the phone up. If you're not growing your database in today's market, your business isn't going to survive. And that's, one of the hardest things that I think that it's one of the hardest but easiest things to do in the market, is grow your database. I mean, you're talking to people that like you, that know what you do, that would refer you business, but yet a lot of real estate agents just don't take their database very seriously. So are you growing your database? What is your speedometer? How fast are you going in this market right now? Because if you're not growing it, you're not moving very fast. What is your lead source? Or is your lead source that I'm waiting for, company leads, or I have one lead source that I focus on every single day and I'm waiting for something to come out of it. When I was all I focused on, when I was an individual agent, not a team lead, and I was just producing real estate, I looked at how many different lead sources can I have. And I always had this thing in the back of my head. If I want to do 100 transactions, I need to have 10 lead sources that give me 10 leads per year that close. And that will get me to my 100. So if I was going to say, I'm going to get 10 from a database, 10 referrals, 10 from Zillow, 10 from Realtor, I need to look at how many different lead sources do I need to be able to achieve my goal. And I need to focus on that. If you only have one lead source or one way of getting business in today's market, you're going to struggle. If you stop making your daily prospecting calls because, the market's slow and I'm going to feed into the hype of the market right now, maybe this is a time that you can step back versus get your foot on the gas, then you're going to start slowing down in the business, and this time of year we know is generally slow because, in our markets, it's a big vacation time, kids going back to school. People have a lot of distractions from real estate just this time of year. These couple of weeks of the year are probably relatively the biggest distractions, besides maybe the holiday Christmas market. This is generally a slower time in the market. So what do you do in these times of the market? This is where you got to start focusing on your mental focus, changing things, creating your database, putting your game plans in place, things that you can be helping grow your business. Because if you believe your business is bulletproof, you're also gonna fail in today's market. Nobody's business doesn't, regardless how big you are, how much you've done or how many business deals you've done this year, nobody's business is bulletproof. And as soon as you take your foot off the pedal, it's so much harder to get to that speed again in this business. So, nobody's business is bulletproof. And communication, where a lot of people fail, is being inconsistent with communication in their database. And Aaron touches on this all the time, is that you don't need a huge database of clients in your sphere. But the problem is everybody thinks, and I know there's a big marketer out there that talks about database, and you can, 10% of your database will grow, will give you a referral per year. So if you have 100 in your database, that should be 10 referrals. If you have 1,000 in your database, that should be 100 referrals. When people start looking at those large numbers, they get lost in it. I mean, just start with a low database. Start with a database and just get consistent in communicating with that database and getting your message out there to your database so that people are referring business over. And you really have to work on personal growth activities. I think the more, positive in, positive out type mentality, you will grow your business. And, you ever start your day off and, it's just something bad happens early in the day and it kind of throws your whole day off. Well, that's what's so important about real estate is we don't get this day over again. We can't redo today. And starting with personal growth activities and keeping your positive outlook of where we are, where you're going, and what you're going to set your goals at every single day is going to set that positive growth in your market. I guarantee you start your day off positive, your first phone call is going to have more energy. You're going to be more focused for the day. You're going to achieve more on your daily basis when you have that positive growth and you keep yourself positive starting early in the day, but staying focused on it every single day. You have to achieve your goals. Every single day, you have goals that you have to achieve. You have people that you got to be in front of. You got calls that you have to make. And these are the 7 signs that if you find yourself not having a database, only having a lead source, not making calls on a daily basis, you're going to see your business struggling moving into this market shift. A lot of real estate agents are going to get out of the business in the shift. And, as the market starts, we're looking at 16% less sales in our market right now. It's a big shift in the market. What are you going to do to make up for that shift? I'm telling you right now, these are the things that you need to focus on to really grow in today's market. So, Aaron, I just wanted to, kind of bring those up as like kind of a basis to, where we are and what we can do to overcome any kind of shifts in the market. And even though that I don't see the shifts as like a negative, I don't see like this shift is everything that I see, and not just trying to look at the glass half full, but I mean, you look at this, I mean, we're still getting multiple offers. You're still getting, interest rates are still low. I mean, people are still buying. I'm making calls every single day and people are still like ecstatic. I think people are more excited to talk to a realtor right now. It's because most realtors are kind of like, they're in pause mode. Oh, the market shift. Whoa, is me. And, to talk to somebody that just has a positive outlook on the market just changes them. I mean, if a client's thinking negative, it's going to be hard to shift them into getting them under contract or getting them to list their home. So again, everything we look at is gotta look at the positive side of today's market. We are not in any kind of real estate recession. If anything, I'm going to like today's market better than what I did like over the last 2 years. So, hey, Rod, I'm gonna
don't disagree with a single thing you've said, Ryan. And I'm actually going to talk to some of these things because I think what you're talking about is so relative to where we are in the market right now. And I'm probably going to back up one of the things that you said. My best year ever in real estate, my average days on market was 90 plus, and that was worst year mentally because everything's a shit show when it takes that long, but it was my best year for transaction volume because I had the ability to grow. I had the ability to market, I had the ability to leverage the listings I had to generate more opportunities. And ironically, the worst year I ever had was very similar to the market we've just been through, where half my listings were selling before they hit the market. So I wasn't really getting a lot of marketing promotion. I wasn't getting the opens. I wasn't really getting the fundamentals that I was supposed to be doing every day. I mean, great year for, speed and efficiency, but really tough year to help grow. So, and I've said this to you guys many times. I still think the next couple of years is going to be the best 2 years that we've seen in this industry, with a little caveat. It's going to be tougher because you're going to actually have to run a business. We're going to need to understand what it takes to run relationships for 90 days plus before we get them into a transaction. Because for the last couple of years, it's been, 15, 30 days and they've gone and, moved on, unless you've got a buyer that can't get into a property. But when it comes to a seller, that relationship's historically very short for the last couple of years. So I wanted to touch on a couple of things that you spoke about here, Ryan, especially the first one about staying out of the hype. Let's be really honest. If you had a half average product and you wanted to sell it, you sell it in the real estate industry because everybody kind of lives on the edge of bankruptcy. Nobody's really sort of forward thinking. And, so a half average product will always sell it. And it's always sold on the basis that it's absolutely 100% going to turn you into a millionaire. And the idiot trying to sell it to you has never sold real estate. Fundamentally think about our industry and what we buy into. And, when I say stay out of the hype, it's like we've got to start believing in what we know works, and I think biggest downside that we had in the last couple of years is we had a lot of things taken away from us as into what we could do to grow our business. You weren't doing opens, you weren't doing door knocking, you weren't doing the same old traditional meet and greets. It was all very restricted to, being online. And so what generally would happen in that situation, by about midday, you'd sort of done what you'd normally been doing during your normal day. And then you try and find something new to add to it. So you'd start bringing in new things and then not really getting deep enough on them to produce a result. I have a very, very firm rule in my business. I never overload it with stuff. What I do is I find what works and I do more of it. There's no value in having 15 things that you're doing, half-assed. You're better off having 5 things that you are absolutely nailing every single day without fail, because it's the old mile wide, inch deep theory, and which is what most realtors are like. We're looking for the next bright and shiny object that's going to fix our business. Like, human beings have not changed. The way we build relationships, the way we grow our business has not shifted. Ironically, what most of us are trying to do is bring in new and improved ways to build relationships with people, and unfortunately it doesn't exist. There's great ways to maintain and keep growing, but they're not ways to start. So when I talk about staying out of the hype, my best advice I give to people, stop listening to people. We're trying to, we're in a day and age now where we get our financial advice from our Uber driver and our real estate coaching from Facebook. That's how stupid it's become. You guys are surrounded by such great people. For me, I find one thing and I focus on that. I don't listen to everything just because I want to make sure that I'm taking something from a conversation and putting it in place. If I hear something that I like, that's where I stop. I look at it, I go, how do I put that in my business? How do I make that work? I put it in my business because I don't really want to be trying to roll out 10 to 15 things at one time. So, get really, really focused about the staying away from the conversations. I honestly, stay out of social media. Stop reading everybody else's negativity, because we actually want to read that to make ourselves feel better if things aren't going for us. But this is a time to get really, really quiet and really hyper-focused on what you're doing. And that's the same in the positives. For me, I like to spin that around and stay 100% focused on things you can control. Because if you actually look at the things you focus on, when it comes to our market, what people are saying about rates, what, all these experts are saying about the industry, they're all things we can't control, but yet we're sort of hyper-focused on it. Ironically, let's think about the last couple of years. Number one question that I was asked was, how do we deal with iBuyers? How do we deal with these investors coming into the market? How do you deal with iBuyers? My immediate response is that they have never, ever held more than a 10% market share collectively. So you take every discount brokerage, you take every iBuyer model, they've never controlled more than a 10% market share nationally, but everybody wants to know how to solve that one problem. Why not focus on the freaking 90% of people that aren't interested in going down that route? We need to go to when a market's like this, we need to go to the most easiest converted place of our business, not hyper-focusing on the 1 or 2 fly-by-night operations that come about. And so mostly staying on the positives. To me, that's focus on stuff you can control. And Ryan's pointed out quite a few of them here, which I'm going to dive into a little bit deeper, because this is how do we go out and get business right now. It's a very miserable place to be if all we're doing there is sitting there believing in the market hype that we're hearing, the negativity, all these promises about certain things that are going to change our business. And the reality of it is you can't control that. What you can control is your daily actions. You control your accountability. You control every single thing we do on a day-to-day basis. You can also control what you remove from your business on a day-to-day basis. Because if I really want to focus on what I can control, I'm really not going to start looking at new things until I've actually gone through everything in my business and removed what's holding me back. Like, what do you have in your business right now that's not working? And I think a challenge that I want to issue for everybody today is, over the next 2 weeks, I want you to find 2 or 3 things that you need to remove. Because unless you clear your platform to be able to give everything 100%, now sometimes it could be a client, it could be a lead source that you're spending 4 or 5 hours a day on, getting nothing from it. Now, the ultimate solution there is don't cut it off until you work out what the issue is. If it's not, your conversion's not good, your communication's not great, whatever that may be, if you're not getting the results from it and you've been doing it to the best of your ability in your own honesty, then get rid of it. Find something that you can actually convert on. Because I'm seeing a lot of this in this industry right now is just people going through the motions day after day, not getting the results. And, it just sends people to a very early retirement because they're focusing on things that don't have the ability to convert very well.
And the one thing on that, Aaron, is that you think about all these, what are the most common trends in the market? I get these phone calls all the time where people call you, they want you to work on their leads for a referral basis. There's a lot of different companies that work on these referral bases. They got these huge data centers of people that just call. And they're offering, we'll give you $1,000 towards your closing, or, a discount and all this. You got to think that these people, and the one thing I look at with my database is I don't want those people calling my database. I need to protect my database. you know, and it's the last thing you want is if you're not valuable to your database, it's going to be easy for somebody to take a shift, to go over and work with a different realtor. Very early in my career, I had a buyer, that went and listed their home after I sold them their home with one of my competing real estate agents. That, he's a friend of mine, but I just really can't stand the guy. And
not anymore. He's no longer a friend. He's vanished.
And that's all it took me to say, you know what, I need to protect my database. Anybody in my database is going to buy or sell real estate, it's going to be through me, because there's a lot of outside sources that are coming after them. That are calling them. There's a lot of websites. There's a lot of things that people are doing that you're not doing as a realtor that may connect and take your database away from you. So you got to protect that. That's the one thing, like every day I wake up is like, you got to protect your business. You got to put fuel in the gas in your car to get to work every single day. You got to put fuel in your business every single day and protecting your most valuable thing as a realtor is your database of clients. And if somebody just said, if I want to grow my business, the only thing I had is I protected my database, I impacted my database, you can grow your entire business off of that database.
I'm going to give you a different perception on a database as when I get to that as well, because I want to, for me, it's understanding what the value of a database is. It's not a list of people. It's not a list of people of names. It's an engine in your business. But I just want to touch on a couple of things before I go down that route. But you also talked about efficiency, and I think, the desperation is a bit of a negative thing in our business, because desperation drives us to the end very, very quickly. And when we're desperate for business, we tend to sort of assume what the opportunity is, and we sort of dive on that without really giving it a lot of thought. And I know I brought this up at the last call, but this is very pertinent to what this conversation is your process will always unlock what the opportunity is. And unfortunately for most realtors, what we do is we think we know what the opportunity is. We sort of sidestep our process of how we go through setting expectation meetings, going through the client, the buyer expectations, all that sort of stuff. We don't do it. We sort of dive straight into the end without going through the process. And, something for me, I learned this very early in my career, is if I sidestep my process of taking people through every step of what I do, I'm generally trying to close on something that doesn't exist. And most people don't know what they want to do until we've actually taken them through the process. And something we did quite a few months ago now, is we broke our pre-listing process down into 3 phases, because we get so many people right now that are, I'm interested, but I'm not really doing anything for 6 months. And so most of us generally back off and let them do their thing, and, go figure, as always happens, 2 months later, they're on the market with somebody else. So one of the things that we did was right, let's break it into 3 sections. So the very first section we do when somebody says, look, we're not interested in selling, is going, that's fantastic. If you're doing it in 6 months, what I want to do is get you ready. So let's not worry about your house, because in 6 months' time, things are going to be very, very different. But let's go and get you emotionally invested in where you may go. So let's go and have a look at some new locations and really get you to understand, what you're going to have to spend, to move to the area that you want to go. So I'm getting you very invested in the move. And I can almost guarantee every time I did that process, where they wanted to go ended up being somewhere different. Their expectations on the sale price of their home started to soften a little bit, because they're emotionally connected to the actual move. Never, ever sidestep your process because you assume what the opportunity is. And I think this is something that, I'd write this down everywhere, and never sidestep it, because what we end up doing when we do that is we lower the standards in our business, and we expect that people are going to sort of be okay with it. Because even if it doesn't go anywhere and you follow that process really, really efficiently, you're going to get a lot of business from it. And probably the best way I can explain it, especially for me when it came to listing presentations, I'd have a lot of people call me and say, hey, look, we're just ready to put it on the market. I wouldn't even do a listing presentation. I'd show up, sign the contracts, but that was their experience with me. It wasn't brilliant. So it didn't matter what was happening. I would take you through the entire process. I'd take you right through the pre-listing process, the whole structural setup of how we do your listings, because if something doesn't go right, the experience is going to keep me okay. It's also going to, unravel some things that I might need to sort of deal with as we go through it. So never let the process get out of the way. Like, just follow it to the T, because in this market, not only is it going to open, a lot of more opportunities, but it's another impression that they can share with somebody else. And hey, at the moment, the absolute best lead source you're ever going to have is referrals, because that's where people have changed the most in the last 2 years. If I want something right now, I am not going to social media. I am not going to some random flyer in my post box. I'm going to someone that I know and I trust, and I'm asking that question. That is why this industry at the moment is struggling, is because we're living off the last 2 years where we could, put a rock formation out the front of a home and, and we could get paid. Now we've got to leverage those relationships. We've got to get a little bit more three-dimensional, and I'll talk to you about this when we bring up the database. The other one about strengthening your mental focus, I mean, this is always going to be a tough one because a fast change is always really a little bit disruptive for most people. And I read a quote quite some time ago about, after any significant change, it's always preceded by chaos. And unfortunately, most people try to fight the change. We try to, pretend it doesn't happen, or we try to force it back the other direction. We don't want the change, when the reality of it is you can't stop change from happening. It's just a historical thing that's always going to be there. You need to learn to manage the chaos. And the chaos happens because we're not ready for it. The chaos happens because it takes us out of our groove. It's not what we're used to. We need to be so far ahead of our business that we're aware. I mean, you should have a plan in your business right now for every single listing you take on, taking 60 plus days to sell. You should have a plan for it. Whether it happens or not doesn't matter, but you need a plan for it. We need to start talking about that. We've got that here in California right now. So at some point, you guys are going to get it. Our average days on the market in Orange County right now is 71. Still got the same amount of transactions, but they're taking a lot longer. So you need plans in that, because all of a sudden budgeting becomes an issue. All of a sudden your marketing spend becomes an issue. All of a sudden the frustration of your seller becomes a major issue in your business, only because we haven't set it up. All of my listing agents right now are talking about that at their listing presentation. Look, we may not get the result on the first day. The market's changed, affordability shifted. So we're just setting them up emotionally for that. Like strengthening the mental focus is getting in front of stuff. The only times that things become a real issue is when we know they're going to happen. We don't plan for it, and we do this and hope it doesn't. Mental focus for me is staying very present, like stay in the moment. Don't think about what you were doing yesterday or what you're doing tomorrow. How do you focus on exactly what you're doing today? And for me to stay mentally focused, one of the things that I always did in my business was daily planning. I'd sit down in the morning, look at everything I need to do today, and make sure that I didn't focus on anything unless it was getting done what I had in my calendar for the day. So I'd look at that in my morning 90, like, am I prepared for everything? What obstacles do I have? What resources do I need? Because I want to make damn sure that whatever I've got in my calendar today, I can convert on it some way, shape, or form, or at least take it further forward. Mental focus is staying present. Mental focus gets really wiped out when you're worried about what someone said to you a month ago, or panicking about what you think might happen in this market 90 days down the track, because nobody ever gets it right. No economist has got this market right, not even remotely close. The reality of it is, it does not matter what happens with the economy, with inflation, with interest rates, we are still going to sell a ton of homes. I referenced my best year, 90 plus days on the market, interest rates are 9.5%, and I did just under 1,000 deals. Worst year mentally, it was a freaking nightmare. But my worst year volume-wise, interest rates were like 4.5. It was one of the lowest that I'd seen in my career selling, and my average days on market were 3. And I was just under 700 deals, and it was just because I didn't have the ability to leverage and grow. I mean, it was an incredible year for speed and money, but the business can grow by the surroundings that you have around you, not just because this market's hot. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of realtors that are, they're sitting there looking at themselves like they're the absolute greatest salesperson that's ever lived because they did pretty well in 2021. Let's be really honest. Any freaking idiot could have made money in 2020 and 2021 selling real estate. I can't sugarcoat that any better. You didn't have to speak and someone was going to buy the house. We're in a market now where the Saturday club player is now playing in the NFL, and they're starting to realize that this shit's real. Like, you've got to have a strategy around marketing your home. You've got to have a strategy around price reductions. You've got to have a strategy around presenting low ball offers to get some sort of sensitivity from your sellers about price reductions. You have to have a step for everything, because you know what? We're going to see some exposure. We're going to see some people that did pretty well in the last 12 months, all of a sudden sitting here blaming the world as to why they're not succeeding now. Like, this is ours to solve. This is our opportunity to make a ton of money doing it. And unfortunately, I'm seeing a lot of this right now. Some people that, 70, 80 deals last year, patting themselves on the back about how brilliant they are. And they still, 1 or 2 transactions so far this year, things starting to get real. For me to be a great business person in general, not just a realtor, it's what you do in a challenging market that defines you. And I made more money when the market was tough than I ever did when it was good, because when the market's good, anybody can do it. When the market's tough, the consumer leans on somebody that's got a process, that's got history, that's got the ability to sit and walk them through everything. And so if you really want to sort of start really getting mentally focused, you've got to believe in what you do, but you've also got to get really hyper-focused on your process and live in the moment, live in the day. I still do it today. I don't do a lot of planning outside of my week. We do it, once a quarter, we sort of look at the big things that we're working on. But my hyper focus is on daily activities. How do I get the most out of every event? How do I get the most out of every meeting? I have a note on everything going, what is the next step? So every time I meet with somebody on a day-to-day basis, I'm just constantly looking at what's the next step. How do I take this meeting further? Can I book another meeting? Or do I just let this thing go and move on to something else? Like, get the most you can out of each day, because tomorrow is going to be different. You know, the rates are going to be different. I mean, I see Joe on here. I mean, every 35 minutes, the interest rate's bloody changing. If we sit there and watch that and predict our business around it, we'll be in a bloody mental asylum. Like, just get over it. This market is just insane, because the three things a human being wants: food, education, and home ownership. And it does not matter what happens, those three things are always going to happen. You know, so, and understand emotional changes is what gets people to sell homes. And there's more emotional changes happening right now than ever. You know, we're coming out of the lockdowns, all that sort of stuff's gone and forgotten now. Now people are having to recover. You know, they've been without work, they've, you know, spent through the savings, they've got credit card debt. And there's a lot of things coming in, which means we can provide options to solve that. We have to be talking to a lot more people about it. And this is where I want to jump into the database side of things, because there's so many different ways to look at this. And this is kind of is going to be a bit of a reality check for people, because a database is not having 10,000 people where you've got an email and a phone number, because honestly, you might as well go get the freaking phone book. That's all it is. I mean, a database doesn't always need to grow based on numbers. For me, my database grew by the amount of connections that I had with people in it. Like, your database can grow by the communication. It can grow by the connection that you have with the people in it. And honestly, the most unsuccessful realtors that I've ever worked with are the ones with the biggest databases that email it once a month and get all pissed off that they're not getting business from it. You're doing exactly the same as what every other agent's doing. If you've got a database and if you've got somebody's name and number in it, you need to bloody talk to them, because that's the only way you're going to hear what's going on with people. Interesting, I had a rule in my business that I wouldn't focus on any marketing where I could not control the outcome. And now the outcome for me is an engagement or an interaction with a human being. If I can't hear what's in your voice, if I can't hear that pause, I mean, I'd call somebody and they go, well, you know, we're not really interested in selling. That's all I needed to hear. The pause, they're not really interested, means at some point, this could be an option. So for me, they're straight into my communication plan. I want to stay connected with them. Now, if somebody said, hey, piss off, never call me again, I'm absolutely going to leave you alone and move on to somebody else. You don't get that in an email or a text message. You know, and interesting, we've got to bring the humanization part back to our business, because we're all trying to automate the relationship building process. You need to automate everything your client doesn't see, so you've got more time to engage and to grow. And I call this a bit more of a three-dimensional approach. Your database is not getting business from the people that are in your database. Your database is about getting the people that are in there to leverage you with the people that they know. And if you really want to make a database work, look at them as full-time prospectors. How do I get those relationships to go out and tell other people that if I'm thinking about selling, you know, you should give Aaron a call. He's the guy you need to. And I spent so much time educating my database on how to do that for me. You know, I wasn't just staying in touch with them, sending them real estate updates. I was calling them, talking to them, saying, look, you know I'm always going to be here for you, but you know, I'd love a favor from you. If you know anybody that's thinking of doing it, don't care when. I mean, it could be in the next 2 years. I'd love to be connected with them. And, you know, hey, if they think I'm good enough to do the job, fantastic. Like, I'm just constantly looking for opportunities. Your database will kill you if you're just thinking that's where your business is coming from the people that are in it. The people that are in it are your most valuable asset, because they're a voice that can tell somebody else about you. Now, my business was 90+% referrals, and I hyper-focused on 50 people. 50 people that had great relationships. They were tied into networks and spheres that I wasn't. And I spoke to those people every bloody week. Now, initially it was every 2 weeks, but as that relationship built, I was talking to these people on a weekly basis, because I built relationships with them. We knew things about each other. I had information that I could use to leverage. But your database is about a three-dimensional process. If you had 50 people running around your neighborhood right now going, you know what, if you're ever thinking about selling real estate, you know, Ryan's the only guy you should talk to. Have a chat with him. Your business is going to grow in spite of what you do. But unfortunately, most of us look at people with dollar signs in our eyes going, you want to sell? No, great, piss off. I'll see you in 12 months. Like, you can't do that. Now, I did that for years, and it was killing my business. That's why I was working 90 hours a week, doing buddy 10 deals a month. Sure, making good money. But the minute I changed everything and focused 80% of my energy on the people that I knew and using and leveraging them to be my voice in my business, in 12 months, I went from doing 10 deals a month to 60 and working half the hours, because I had people doing my job for me. Most people with a database will send an email once a month and they get pissed off when they list with somebody else. There's no phone calls. There's no engagement. There's no call to action. You know nothing about the people in it. Why not doing a client profile on everybody in your database? Do you know what their favorite sports teams are, their kids' birthdays, the wedding anniversaries? Are you finding ways to engage with people outside of real estate? Because I will be very adamant about one thing, and I know this for a fact, it's 100% true. Nobody's ever going to do business with you because you're good at selling real estate. 100% guarantee it. They will do business with you because they like you as a person, because nobody ever gets to see how good you are until they've hired you. Now, I got sucked into that little rabbit hole. I thought people would list with me just because of my market share and who I was and what I'd done. It drove more people away than it brought in the door. Most of the people that I listed with had no idea what my volume was. Understand, the only people that know how good you are your competitors or the people around you. The consumer doesn't sit there. They don't have a fan page for realtors about who the greatest person is. I mean, Ryan might have one. He's a pretty good looking guy, so he could have a good following with that. But the reality of it is it doesn't matter. Like, we get so invested in our own bullshit that we think that's actually what happens. But the reality of it is, every time I met somebody, they knew nothing about me. They knew nothing about my history. Sure, they'd seen some signs out there, but that's not what they're sitting there looking at. Like, your database it's a farm. It's something you grow. And I look at my database and I call it my emotional bank account. And I look at my database like a bank account, because that's exactly what it is to me. It's where I put my money. And so if you look at a really old school bank account, one of those really old cool ones that if you kept putting money in on a regular basis, that interest grew up, and then eventually you could borrow money and take money out from it. That's what a database is the more time and energy you put into it, that's your investment. That's the deposits you're making on a regular basis. When you want something from it, you've got something to take out. If all you're doing is emailing your people once a month and you want to get something from it, you've done nothing but borrow from it. You've not put any investment into it. You've not made any phone calls. You're not connected with people. And so here's my challenge that I want a little bit of an accountability process. And the hardest thing that I think we struggle with is being super consistent. Now, I know Ryan brought this up. The consistency for me is a bit of a challenge for us in general, because days change. Real estate's such a funky reactive business that you could wake up tomorrow and it's a very different day. And so for me, it's not about sitting down every day and making 100 phone calls. Granted, I know that's what we need to do. But the worst thing that we've got before we have to make those calls, we don't have the habits. We don't have the ability to sit down and do it on a regular basis. And so for me, I had to find something that I couldn't screw up. And so for me, it was doing a lot less, but a lot more often. You can't have one day of prospecting a week, because sometimes that day is going to get lost. You're going to get booked for something, or it's just not going to happen. And now you're 2 weeks, 3 weeks out from doing it. So for me, it's always a little bit. My first hour every day without fail, no questions asked, no appointments booked, no nothing. My first hour was always focused on growing my business. 1 hour solid. It was a hard stop. And I'd go for it. Now it's 90 minutes, but I use 30 minutes of that for planning. But I've got 1 hour where I'm doing nothing but calling past leads, calling people from my sphere, but I'm always doing a little bit of different things. So I'll do 5 calls to a leads, 5 calls to my sphere. So I'm having different conversations. I don't want to sit there and make 30 phone calls to the same type of people. It gets very boring and mundane. That's just me personally. But I do that every single day without fail, because a little bit, a lot is always going to get there. Because if we actually sat down and said, right, we're coming into the office to do an hour's worth of phone calls, there's not frigging one of you that's going to be excited about that. But if we actually sat down and said, right, we're going to run a competition, I want to see how many phone calls you can make in 15 minutes. That's kind of fun. Let's get into it. Let's go for it. Just so you know, it's 6. But I mean, for me, taking smaller bite sizes at something is always the way to do it. When you're training to run a marathon, if anybody's ever done that, you don't go out day 1 and run 26 miles. You do a couple of miles, you get fit, you get ready, you keep going. Prospecting and growth is exactly the same. And Aaron, unfortunately, most of us want to dive to the end result.
And one of the things that a lot of people, I think the biggest concern a lot of agents have is like, all right, I'm calling somebody. What do I say? What's the conversation? And you don't really have to say anything. Just call past client. Your conversation is just going to evolve. Just like you talk to your mom, your brother, your sister, your best friend. Like, you could just call your past client and it's just having a casual conversation. A lot of times it's going to lead into real estate. They're going to ask you it's just like if your doctor called you.
Yeah. Interesting you say that, Ryan. I have 2 rules, because unfortunately for us, when we get under pressure as people, and I mean, our job is selling real estate, and when we call somebody and we feel uncomfortable, the natural thing for us to do is dive into real estate scripts. Please don't ever do that, because we're not at that phase, and all you're doing is exposing what you're doing. So I had 2 rules. Now, these are guides. So I wasn't holding on to these things for exactly what they are, but just understand why I would do them. So my very first rule is I will not speak to you for any longer than 30 seconds. All right. And I'll explain why. And my second rule is I'm not bringing up real estate. Because the number one reason why your clients don't want to talk to you is they don't have 45 freaking minutes to speak to you based on the last conversation they had with you with just long-winded rubbish. Now, it's about getting your timing right. So if I call Ryan and I can hear he's busy, I can hear the kids, I can do it. I'll say, hey, Ryan, I can hear you're busy. I'll give you a buzz in a couple of days. I've still done what I needed to do, was get my name up the list a little bit. Like, we don't have to have those life-changing conversations, but we need to be present. And so the flip side, don't bring up real estate. The reality of it is, the minute I talk to Ryan and say, hey, look, I just wanted to call you about the real estate market, see if you had any interest, I've just exposed what I'm doing. I'm looking for a paycheck. The other side of it, and the reason I don't bring it up, is when was the last time you ever spoke to someone that didn't say, hey, how's business? It always comes up. It just can't come up from you. But for me, that's about getting my timing right. I want to lead everything with the relationship. I want to make sure that they're there. And we've talked about this many times, but the client profiling helped me. I had 15 to 30 things that I knew about people: birthdays, wedding anniversaries, social media. This is how you use it. It's not to sit there and snoop on people, but get a trigger. Like, I saw they went out to dinner last week. Great. Let's have a conversation. But what Ryan said is so true. The most powerful phone call you can make to any single person ever is for no reason at all. What would be wrong with every single person right now over the next week calling everybody in their database and just basically saying this? You know what? I've actually got no reason to call you, but there's been a lot of changes in the market, and I just wanted to reach out and say hello, see how your day's going. A lot of changes, across the board on everything over the last couple of years. I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Like, why not do that?
And I guarantee you, just by making that phone call to 5 to 10 people, somebody's going to pop up and they're going to say something that's going to kind of like change your whole outlook on this. Is that, oh, by the way, my neighbor was looking to sell, or my cousin, my niece, my nephew. And then all of a sudden, this world of referrals start opening up to you. But why don't agents do it? They're so scared of just.
Well, and it's a human psychology thing, Ryan. Is we're way more comfortable talking to people that don't know us and hate us than we are talking to people that like us. Way more comfortable, because we're and hey, you guys can argue with me on this all you like, because it's because we're embarrassed about what we do. We don't want to be the realtor. We don't want to. And, we don't want to be too pushy with people. But you know what? You're 100% right. Because if you're just going after your friends talking about the same old regurgitated scripts about you want to sell, give me a shot, why not be a freaking good person first and give yourself the ability to be on the shopping list? I mean, I would honestly, 100%, I would say to my dad, I don't want you to give me referrals. Now, follow me along, because I'm not that stupid. But I'd say, look, I don't want you to give me referrals. Number one, the reason I don't want you to do that is I don't think I deserve it. Like, you and I got on really well. I did a great deal with you. I want to be part of the conversation, but I want your people to choose. Now, if they think I'm the right person for the job, brilliant. Now, getting the opportunity is way easier, because if I went to Ryan and said, I want your referrals, he's thinking about someone that wants to do something in real estate right now. And I know Joe Salem and I have had this conversation. Referrals are in the minute. And if I want a referral for somebody, we're looking for someone that can do exactly what you do. Whereas if I'm saying to people, look, I don't care when they want to do it, a year or two out, now's a great time to start planning. Hook me up with them and I'll get them, I'll get them on a plan. And then when they're ready, hopefully they'll consider me for the opportunity. Now, I'm going to do a lot of legwork leading up to that. Unfortunately, the reason why we don't do that, this is the last 2 years in a nutshell. This is our life in a nutshell, is pretty much everybody right now lives off instant gratification. If you do not get from the relationship what you want in the very first phone call, you don't do anything more with it, because you haven't got your instant gratification from it. That is bullshit. That is the worst thing you could ever do in this industry, because all you're doing is giving them the information to now share it with somebody else, and then they'll go somewhere. Like, instant gratification is the death sentence in real estate. If you expect to get a result on everything you do the first time you do it, that's the reason you stop. Biggest lesson I ever learned in my business, it takes 4 to 5 to 6 sort of initiations of the process to start seeing the result. Like, I've got to talk to people 3 or 4 times before the relationship comes down to a level where they'll actually have a conversation with me. I've got to door knock the same neighborhood 3 or 4 times before that awkwardness is gone and they start talking to me. These things, this is what builds a business. Unfortunately, from time to time, we get very, very lucky the first time we do it. And then we believe that's the way the process is. But you think about everything around us in life right now. I mean, I'm the Amazon Prime king. If I can't get it in 2 hours, I ain't buying it. Like, our life is built around speed and getting a result straight away. This industry is not built like that. However, everybody's selling you a product right now that guarantees you that you're going to do this. Now, I have a simple answer to all of that. Show me one person that's done it and I'll buy it. And I've been in front of that 4 or 5 times, and not one person can show me anybody that's done what they're saying that they can. My most successful realtors right now are living off some old school stuff. And this is where, Ryan's talking about multiple lead sources. We've gone back to some older stuff, smaller farming. We've got obviously our online stuff. We've got our database as another lead source. We've got networking sessions that are lead sources. And funny enough, the things that we're getting the most amount of business from aren't costing us a lot of money, but they're costing us some time, which means we've got to get involved. We've got to get face to face. And you've got to try some stuff like joining new clubs, doing some things out there that is going to get you a little bit more exposed. I got a lot of actually single mums that are doing really, really well at the moment because they're using the schools as part of it. They're going to dropping the kids off with a name badge and doing certain things that they were a little embarrassed to do before, and they're picking up business from it. Because if I know you and I respect you and I've got some sort of affiliation, I'm going to talk to you. That's what's changed the most in our business, especially over the last 18 months, is people are different. And I think this is a real, and probably everybody will appreciate this. Everybody right now, and you guys are all doing exactly the same thing. You're looking for the negative. We're not looking for the reason why we should do something. We're looking for the reason why we shouldn't. We're always, leaning on, a little bit of misery, because it makes us feel better about how quick the change is.
Yeah.
We're a little pissed off because we haven't changed our lifestyle from 6 months ago when we were living in the glory days, making all this money. And I know Ryan's put it on here, living outside your means. We have got to be so tight right now with our money because we just don't know what's going to happen over the next 3 to 6 months. I don't think it's going to be bad, but tightening up the budget strings is not a bad thing to do. If you're still living the same way you were living in 2021, 2023 is going to be a little funky. It's going to be a little tough. And for me, I would double down on my business in this market. I'm looking at every single thing that I'm doing, going, right, do I need to still be doing that? Like I'm looking at every single expense. However, I will say one thing, when it comes to expenses in business, it does not start with business expenses. It starts with personal expenses. If you go in and rip out all your business expenses and don't change your personal expenses, you're going to be bankrupt. The first thing you've got to change is look at how you live. You've got to look at what you spend on a day-to-day basis, because the fuel source for that is coming from the business. Stockpile the business. When things start getting, a little bit better, then do it. But I see this all the time. People cut the crap out of their business, but still live the lifestyle. And all of a sudden they work out that that doesn't work. And for me, if I'm changing anything, it starts at home. I look at where I can cut costs because I want to invest money in my business more than I want to say, look, I'm not going to take away any of my income. I'm just going to take the money away from the business. But all you're doing is depleting the thing that fuels your life. Like you don't have to do it for a long time. But if you're not doing that right now, looking at every expense, we've seen some changes happening in the market. And honestly, our business has stayed exactly the same, but we're still cutting costs. We're sitting there going, look, what if it doesn't work out? What if things do? What if this market stays like this for a couple of years? Now, I know for a fact it's not, but I would rather be wrong.
And the one thing, Aaron, like the one thing about real estate, that they're always going to have people always going to have babies. They're going to grow their household size. They're going to divorce. They're going to relocate with work. Like regardless of the shift, there's always real estate that's going to be transacting around us. And I think a lot of real estate agents are looking at, the hype and taking that negative side and then sheltering their business. There's one thing that you were talking about with the database, which I think is so key. And I have closings this month that are coming from just database. But it was because during the process of when they're going under contract, when we first get their house ratified, I asked that client, hey, just let them know I'm open to referrals. That's the most exciting part of the transaction. I just got my house under contract, or I got the house of my dreams under contract. At that point, I always open up the door to saying, look, this is an exciting time. I'd love to be able to share that with your friends and family as well. If you know anybody looking to buy or sell, you have to, during the transaction, is I think when you ask for, or at least open the door.
Ryan, can I jump in for a sec?
Yes.
You are so spot on. And interesting enough, I think so here's a couple of things that I want to issue some challenges. I love what you're talking about here, is I think we should stop using the word referral. It's built into us, but I can give you a different way of saying it to make it sound a little bit more, a little bit user-friendly. And so the first thing I'd always say to anybody in my database, look, and I'm not saying don't send me referrals. I'm saying, look, I'd love to get some opportunities from you, because I think the biggest challenge we've got in our market right now is a lack of information. We've got a lack of certainty about where we're going. And I know a lot of your friends and family might have some questions, and I'd love to be a resource to them. Like, we've got to be a resource before we can be the result. And I think the word referral kind of shuts it down a little bit, because it means I need to find someone that wants to do that now. Like, open it up a little bit. Use words like, I don't care when they want to do it. Even if you've got someone that wants to do it in 2 years, great time to start planning. Like, look at where they're going, what they could do to their home to improve the value. Maybe have somebody just watching the market, and if all of a sudden we see a ton of homes coming on the market, we can let them know that now might be a good time to make a move before it gets saturated. Like, it just gives you so many doors that you can open to go through it. And I think what Ryan's saying is so spot on. Like, that database of people is huge, but here's where I would do it. I would never, ever ask for an opportunity at the end of the transaction. I think that is the dumbest thing you ever do, because you're trying to ask for more money after they're still pissed about paying you the money they paid you. Yeah. I would ask for the referral at the very first meeting. And I would sit down with somebody at the meeting. I'm not asking for the referral member. I would sit down with them, and part of my process was, look, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I want you to understand exactly what my focus is that, hey, the result is something that you expect. You're not coming to me because you're hoping I'm going to sell your house. You know damn well I'm going to, but the part that you're not going to be ready for is the experience that I create for you doing it. So I want you to know exactly where I come from, that I want to make this process so good for you and so enjoyable. And I mean, obviously we're going to have challenges, but I want to make sure that our relationship and the way we communicate, you enjoy it so much that you're going to tell somebody about me. And I do that at the very, very first meeting, because now that's a commitment of service, not a commitment of result. Because if you get to the very end, they've paid you the money, they're going to sit there and go, well, yeah, Ryan sold my home.
But
I mean, that's what's expected.
And the one thing to note is that if you never ask for it,
you're never going to get it.
You're never going to get it. And I think there's so many people, so many agents that just leave that off the table, where it's like, you have to. If you don't open that door is never going to open to that.
But I had somebody on a call with me a couple of weeks ago, Ryan, and they said, like, guys, why would I ask for referrals? They know I want them.
Exactly.
I'm just kind of like, you're freaking kidding me, aren't you? He goes, yeah, they know I want them. I said, well,
yeah. And
then the follow-up question is, why have you not got any? Well, they don't have any. I said, have you asked them? He goes, no. It's like, I'm just sitting there going, like, you got to get off this call. Like, this is but that's that misconception of where we are.
Or it takes the one client asking you, do you accept referrals? Like, hey, I have a friend that's looking to buy. We had such a great experience. It's like, well, I never opened that door. Had I opened that door, they wouldn't be asking. They would just be sending the opportunity over. And
but just remember, the earlier you do it, the better it is, because that way it's a commitment of service. It's completely different. I mean, you see every realtor I'm working with right now is part of their listing presentation. It's in the listing presentation where they actually talk about it. And it's the customer service platform. It's making sure that the number one thing we talk about is that the relationship or the partnership that we have with the seller is critical. And so you know how much we focus on it. We want to be so good at it that you'll tell somebody about us, because during the transaction is when they're talking to all their friends and family. How's it going? Have you sold your home? I want them to know what I want then, so that when somebody comes in, they go, Aaron's been incredible. You know what? If you're thinking about selling at some point, you should talk to him, because I haven't screwed it up yet. Everything's still good. So you're going to get those opportunities. Start it early. You'll thank me for that one down the track. It's because I always wonder, like, why don't people give me referrals after I've just sold their home for a shit ton of money? Because they're still upset about the shit ton of money they had to pay me to do it. And so we're literally asking for another one. Do it early, right or wrong. It's going to make a big difference. It also will make it so much easier to ask for it if you decide you want to do it at the end, if you've already pre-set it up at the beginning. The earlier you get into it, the better. So I would 100% be doing that. The other thing that I just wanted to touch on today is the bulletproofing your business does not exist. Your business itself will be bulletproof if you can control what goes on it. And I think for me, I like to look at this as the thinking forward. Your business where it sits today is irrelevant. Your business, can it survive in 90 days if we are still doing the same thing? If it's taking 90 days to sell properties, if it's 60 days, if interest rates go to 9.5%, and we're going to talk to Joe to make sure that doesn't happen. But if interest rates go up, what are we going to? Is our business going to survive? And I would call this hell planning. The only way that my business is going to be bulletproof if it can survive with no transactions for the next 90 days. That's the only way it's going to be bulletproof, because the market's going to do what it's going to do. And whether that happens or not, that's part of that budgeting conversation. If you really want to make sure that the next 2 years becomes your best financial decision you ever made, you need to look at what you're doing. You need to look at it and go, like, if I didn't get another transaction for 90 days, how would I be? And if your options are, well, I'd need to find another job, you've got a problem with your business, because you need to get that far ahead. Now, I'm also a realist and understand, if you're just newer in the business, it's a little tougher. Like, get lean, because this is not a time to get out of this industry. This is a time where there's going to be more millionaires made in the next 24 months than there has in the previous 24, because it's going to be consistent and it's also going to be sustainable. It's something that's going to build long-term growth in your business. But this is going to come down to you guys doing a little bit, a lot. I would not do 1 day a week prospecting. I'd do it daily. I'd do very short incremental parts of it. I'd get an hour in the morning. Great. Let's just make 10 calls. Let's do it. And maybe what you could do as a competition, Ryan, is start small. Come in, do 5 phone calls. 5, that's it. No more, no less. The next day it's 6. The next day it's 7. Very quickly, you're going to be exactly where you need to be, but also with the realization that it's not that bloody hard. But walking into the office knowing that you've got to make 100 phone calls, there's nothing about that exciting. But build yourself up to it.
Is when you make those calls too. I think a lot of people are looking at, like, you don't make those calls middle of the afternoon and the evening hours.
No.
These are calls that you're going to make early morning. They're starting their day. Before something crazy goes on. And some of my best times, like I don't like prospecting calls are fine. Like, but if I'm calling my sphere, I'm not hitting them on a Monday morning, but Tuesday through Saturday are great times, I find that Friday and Saturday, like Fridays, people are looking forward to the weekend. They're just juiced a little bit more. Like Friday and Saturday mornings have been like great times for me being on the phone. So like you also have to, there's a strategy to everything in your business. And
it's interesting. One thing I will sort of just go, not against you on that one, but the Monday morning calls for me is specifically for people I like. Now, I know that sounds a little rough, but that's like I could call you on a Monday morning and say, hey, buddy, how was your weekend? That's my call. That's my prospecting call. So my Monday morning is for my top referral partners. These are the people that I could go and have dinner with or have a bit. And these are other professionals and other industries that feed me business, because all I'm doing is like, what do you got planned for the week? How was your weekend? So very, very easy call. So I leave my really good relationship ones for Monday, catching up from the weekend, and then I'm with Ryan. From there on, it becomes leads, and I'm doing things a little bit different during the week. But I do say there is no perfect time to prospect, but there is a bloody good time, and that's always in the morning for me, because you've got less chance of screwing it up. Now, 2 reasons I do it is I was better. First thing in the morning, I'm a little bit more engaged. I haven't got 9 million things going on in my head. And the flip side is nobody's really pissed off the other people yet either. So you still get a better chance of, actually having a sensible conversation. And I would generally do my calls between 8:30 and 9:30 in the morning. A lot of time I'm going to leave a message, which is great. But if Ryan doesn't pick up, hey, Ryan, it's Aaron. Sorry, I missed you. I'll give you a buzz later this afternoon. 9 times out of 10, he's going to text me. What do you need? Nothing. Just checking in to see how your day's going. That's communication. Unfortunately, for most of us, we think communication with a database is a client calling us and saying we'd like to do business. That is absolutely not true. Database communication is the fact that your people will engage with you, and then you're going to be present when the timing's right to do business. That's getting rid of that instant gratification. But I would be setting that challenge now. If you guys want to grow, it's going to be a lot. It's also going to be focusing on things that cost you no money. The stuff that you spend money on, that's great, but don't live behind it, because you've got to put people in a place where you can convert. That's that 80-20 rule. You're spending all your time keeping people in your business, or you're spending all your time trying to get new people in it, because that's dangerous.
And the last thing, Aaron, that I really want to touch on is important to this whole, reason we're putting these mastermind calls is this is personal growth. Personal growth activities are the most important thing. Is that if you're not the sword sharpening the sword, like if you're not out there learning a new skill, like training yourself, being in front of people, hearing what's working, what's not working, like these are personal growth things, activities, like being on these calls, like listening to your favorite podcast, reading books about real estate, just business itself, like just having a better positive outlook of where you are in life. I guarantee you, if you just read a book a month on business and motivational practices in your business, you will naturally be better in business. So like personal growth is so important to your business. It
100% agree. I mean, I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I mean, I travel a lot, so I'll put an audiobook in and listen to it. But one of the things I do say, I would be, if I was to focus on anything that I'd be reading right now, and I'm doing a lot of is the client relationship, or how do we, emotional intelligence, things like that, because the biggest thing that's changed in the last 2 years is people. We're a little bit more emotional, we're a little bit more judgmental. Understand how to deal with people. I will give you a great suggestion. I do believe I've mentioned this to you before, but who here has read the book 212 Degrees? Get it and read it. Ryan, here's your weekly challenge. Everybody download this book and read it. Literally, so I'll give you an idea. You're not going to be spending a lot of time reading it. I read it on the plane from Orange County to Arizona. It's a 45-minute flight. So it tells you how long the book is. But for me, this could be the real difference in you guys, because, and I've read the book many times, but it's sort of kind of, the penny didn't drop on it till about the 10th time I'd read it. But the 212-degree theory was something that I, unbeknownst to me, always ran in my business. And 212 degrees, for those that don't know, 212 degrees is the boiling point of water. And literally the first page is all you need to read. And the very first page says one thing. It says at 211 degrees, water is pretty much useless. You can make a good cup of coffee with it, but that's about it. One more degree and you can power a bloody locomotive. Like, think about your business like that. What's one more thing? How could you take something just a little bit further to get a better result? Because we've got very, very good at doing the average. We've got very good at just doing what's necessary. This business is about taking it one step further. It's got big pictures and great big words in it, so you could read the thing in 30 minutes. But if you put that philosophy into your business, every time you made a call and you said, like, what's one thing extra I could do? Could I send them a thank you card and just say, hey, thanks for taking the time to talk to me? Could I take a mental note that I know their birthday's coming up next week, put it in my calendar and make a bloody phone call? Like, what's that one thing that I could take it another step further so that I can really show people that I'm doing something different? For me, it's probably one of the best books I've ever read because it has a real wake-up call. Now, I'd love you all to take a lot of attention when you're reading the section in that book about social media, because they did some research on this. And do you know how long the average realtor spends on social media every day? And I'll tell you, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Damn.
Now, if you equate that to an 8-hour workday, which most of us don't do, but it's an 8-hour workday, that's 102 days a year that we spend looking at someone else's bullshit. Think about that. If you had 102 days of unobstructed, do whatever the hell you need to do to grow your business, where would you be? Like, understand what is the priority in your.
Oh, we might have lost it. Okay. You good? Okay.
For people to really have an impact on them. And both of those things are incredible. But just for this week, I say it's super short and it's very impactful on giving you an understanding on the best way to treat your databases. Do the 212 degrees. Look at everybody in your database and go, what's one thing that I can actually elevate it, do a little bit different? Look at it when you're doing your listing presentation. How could I do one thing a little bit different to get a better result? And for me, that will change a lot of things in your business, because it's like just having the conversation is not enough. Sometimes you've got to follow it up. Sometimes you've got to have a little bit of an impact. And, it's the small incremental things that we do on a day-to-day basis are going to pay big dividends in the future. So I would be looking at that. I'd be doing the 212. And for the next 2 weeks, I would say do that, but I would lock out an hour, non-negotiable, every single morning, Monday through Friday, not the weekends. Weekends are out there making money, but Monday through Friday. Set that example in your business, whether you come into the office, whether you get together as a group, but 1 hour, mix it up. Don't do the same stuff, but make 5 phone calls to your sphere, 5 phone calls to a lead, get the conversations a little bit different. Joe, yours is 5 phone calls to realtors, whoever it may be. Anybody that you can have a conversation with that could actually help you leverage and grow. Mix it up. But here's the key to making it work. You start at exactly the right time and you finish at exactly the right time. So for me, I used to have a stopwatch. So if my thing started at 8:30, at frickin' 8:30, I started making phone calls, and at 9:30, I stopped. So if I got into the office at 9 o'clock, 9:30, I'm still stopping. Teach yourself to do things in the time frame that you set out. Because what most of us do, you got an hour's worth of calls. They rock in at 9, and then at 10:30, they kind of start, and then 12 o'clock, they're finished, and off they go. You've just screwed up your whole day. Like 8:30 start, 9:30 finish, and then get on with your day. But teach yourself to do things in a tighter time frame, and you'll see how quickly your efficiency becomes a lot more effective on your business. Highly recommend it. So, Ryan, that book's freaking awesome. I'll talk about you get some wake-up calls.
Yeah, and that's what I said. Like, and that's one of the things that we want to start implementing in these masterminds is like the accountability side, in putting these calls together. I mean, we have Aaron here for, an hour every 2 weeks to talk about these, but isn't to just talk about it. It's actually implementing it into our business. I mean, what you talk about are game changers. What is your goal as a realtor? Do you want to be just struggling to get a transaction closed every single month? Or, when I looked at it, our president of our local board asked me, he's like, Ryan, would you rather have a $1 million house under contract or 10, 100,000? And I would like to have 10, 100,000, because if two fall apart, I still had 8 closings. And,
Damn right.
and I think where a lot of realtors struggle is that they search for that $1 million, or they have that $1 million pipeline of that one client. That one transaction fails, their whole world is upside down. And what we're talking about inside it is just implementing these little strategies into your business are going to put you in a better position to be a better realtor, to be financially. And these calls that we put together should motivate you to say, you know what, I need to step outside my zone, my comfort zone, and do what it takes to be a better realtor. Because it's not getting more Zillow leads, it's not getting more leads to your database. It's doing what we talk about in these masterminds that will make you a better realtor. And
100%,
and the one thing that we talked about in the last mastermind is the implementation. You got to implement this. You can't just sit here and listen to it. You can't, just every call, like, feel good walking away from a call, like things that I could do in my business and do nothing about it. And that's where we're going to start looking at more of the accountability side and implementing that into our strategy, helping you become more accountable, but making those things that may be difficult a little bit more easier in your business, and watch your business grow.
Mate, I love that. And I think one of the things that I'll always, be very open and honest about is that, like, this, sometimes I can make, my business sound like it was super silky smooth, but the reality of it is this industry is not easy. You're going to have days where it freaking sucks and you hate it and you're not going to enjoy it, but you're never, ever going to have a job that can change your life as quickly as this business can, providing you get off your ass and do what you need to do, because you're self-sufficient. You're the CEO of your own business. You're responsible for everything. And I'll be honest with you, the biggest change in my career was the day I stopped believing my own bullshit. It was the day I stopped believing that the market was affecting my business, or it was somebody else that did something to me, or as a client that was pissed off. The day I stopped believing that and realized that I was responsible for every freaking thing that happened in my business is the day that it changed overnight. Because I'm a salesperson. I can make an excuse for everything. Shit, I can talk myself out of being at the gym when I'm at the gym. So I can talk myself into anything. But the reality of it is, this is an honesty thing, like, because every freaking idiot's going to tell you exactly how to be a millionaire that's never freaking done it. The reality of it is, it's not about that. You guys are all unique. You're all individual. You've got to build the business that works for you. You've got so much stuff around you. Your job is to find out what you're passionate about, what you believe in, what you can go out and execute on a day-to-day basis. But accountability is worthless unless there's some sort of consequence for not doing it. And I also believe that if you want the perfect accountability partner, pick someone that freaking hates you, because all they want to do is see you fail. You don't have an accountability. You don't have your mother as your accountability partner, because they go, oh, it's okay, son. I'm glad, you got halfway there. You're okay. Like, you need someone that is going to test you and push you. But let's be really honest. If you can't hold yourself accountable, you're going to have some pretty big struggles in life. Because self-accountability is like what drives you, what holds you, who do you really sort of look up to? Who do you really don't want to let down? Self-accountability is the most powerful thing. You get that right, all of a sudden you stop dying in misery. You start looking at, what can I do? How can I take things a little bit further? And like I said, I don't make that statement very often, but is the day I stopped believing my excuses and my stories was the day everything freaking changed. I thought, you know what, I can sit there and that's going to make me feel good for an hour. But the reality is I can fix it. I can change it. Like, I just got to sort my shit out and get in front of it. You know what? The calls are hard. They're horrible. Picking up the phone and calling someone that you like and having nothing to say is difficult. But say that. Like, I got no reason to call you. I just sort of pick up the phone and see how your day was going. You'll be blown away by the response. Like,
just the fact that and the thing is, they're looking at it is that you thought about them. That's the most important thing about that phone call, is the mental side. Hey, you thought about me. I thought
the best response you'll ever get, Ron, is like, why are you calling me? No reason. Just want to see it.
I'm calling to check in. And I guarantee you, like, it's amazing, because they think, most of your clients are like, oh, this is that busy realtor that doesn't have, they're taking the time out of the day to give me a call. First, they see your number coming up, like, what's going on? Why is my realtor calling me? Then you just have that conversation and just watch the door open. That's what that's the challenge I want everybody this week. It's just open your database. Open yourself, up to calling that database, and watch your business change. And anything, you got to look at it. You talk about all the time, Aaron, is that, like if you had to get 3 appointments or you die in 30 days, what are you willing to do? And people have to get into that mindset of saying, I need to do this to make my business. I have to change my business.
Yeah.
And don't worry about wherever any market goes, because real estate will always transact. If you want your business to go to a certain level, that's on you, nobody else. And
they're right. We're responsible for everything, buddy. And I think, the market is helping us right now, because let's be really honest, everybody has got exactly what they asked for.
Correct.
The last 2 years, everybody wants it to slow down. They want things to slow down so we can do things. They wanted rates to go up to stop the freaking hyperactivity. You got exactly what you freaking wanted. So deal with it and make it the best opportunity you've ever had. Because, my realtors that we're working right now, their businesses are all growing. Yes, they're working a lot harder than they've ever worked, but that's life. That's business. It's not always glory. You're going to have some tough times. The economy is what it is. But this is where, and this is probably where the reference to Warren Buffett's greatest quote comes into it. He goes, you're going to see very, very quickly who's been swimming without pants on when the tide goes out. Well, the tide's freaking going out. And so, and this is where we're at. We've got all these freaking superstars in the last 2 years. I'm a multi-million-dollar producer. Where's your business now? Because anybody can do it when the market's good. Market's getting tougher now. This is your opportunity to really grow. So, hey, listen to people, but take what you want to do. Read that book. But I would say for the next 2 weeks, 5 calls a day, no more, no less. Do it. Start 8:30, 9:30 every day, and just spend 1 hour every morning working on growth. Like, who can I put into my pipeline? Use the term think forward. Don't worry about what you're doing right now, but what does your pipeline look like in 90 days? Who have you got that's going to be considering doing something in 90 days? If that's a big fat 0, you need to fix that before anything else happens, because that 90-day thing's going to roll around real fast.
And and that's the thing. Like, I want to hear you have a good call, you get a referral, let me know. We're going to use that in these calls. I'm going to be reaching out to you guys, keeping you guys accountable, making those calls. I'm going to make the calls myself. I want to generate business for Revel, as well as you guys should be producing for yourselves. And, each time we're going to talk about the success, we're going to talk about the struggles, things that are difficult, So, we appreciate Aaron, giving us this hour, 2 weeks, we're going to follow up. I'm going to be doing a lot
back again,
guys in between. And we're going to keep these series going, because I believe that, anybody here at Revel, is an elite realtor. We just got to bring it out of you, and everybody has another level they can get to, and we're going to get you there. So,
yeah. Talk about something good to finish on, Ryan. I had a young guy that I was talking to the other day, and talk about a positive attitude. And I said, I know we were just having a chat, and he made this statement, which it sort of sat in the back of my brain. He goes, "Man, I'm already a millionaire. I'm just waiting for the money to catch up." And I thought, when I walked away, I thought, kid's genius. And he was he was so confident with it, because I'm already a millionaire. The money just has to catch up. That's it. I was sitting there going, that's the freaking attitude you need to have. And it was pretty impressive.
It's great. We were just talking, we were just laughing in the office here, because Maverick's here today, my son, if you guys don't know Maverick. And he had to fill out this survey going back to school. And they said, one of the questions, if you had $1 million, what would you buy? And I asked him, what would you buy with $1 million? He goes, I buy stocks. And I was like, oh, you're your wife's child, definitely buy stocks. So
it's crypto. Why would you not?
Exactly. Yeah. So, but we appreciate it, Aaron. Definitely
my pleasure.
We'll get the next call on the books, and we'll get to work on getting this database around.
And just remember too, guys, if you guys have anything that you guys want to talk about, send an email to me or Ryan, and we'll put it on the agenda, because I want to make sure that when we do these things, we're really relative to what's going on in the market. But also just watch what's going on nationally, because you guys are, I believe you're a little bit behind us, and that's a positive thing, not a negative thing. Like we're probably about 60 days ahead of you, where we're starting to get those 60 plus days on market. Like I said, Orange County's hit 71, San Diego's in the high 50s. So California's generally a little bit ahead, 60 days, just because it's bigger, and it sort of kind of gets the ass kicked out of it quicker. So expect to see what we're getting here now starting to creep into your business over the next 60 days. So just think about things like that. Like, if this happens, what are people doing? So hey, these are your sessions. So make sure if you've got a question or a challenge that you've got right now, bring it up, and we'll dive on it as quickly as we can.